Film fans of YouTube, hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Josh, your movie apprentice, and today I am looking at Abigail, directed by Matt Bentinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillet, starring Melissa Barrera, Dan Stevens, Alisha Weir, Kathryn Newton, and Giancarlo Esposito. This follows a group of kidnappers who abduct the young daughter of a very rich man, but they come to realize that this particular child that they have kidnapped has more about her than meets the eye in a tragic mistake. Before I get into my review, if you like what you see on the channel, click the like button and subscribe for more video reviews like this coming all the time. But without further ado, let's jump right into this review. So I'm just gonna jump straight in. If you are not aware of what this movie is truly about, then cut away now. I'm gonna straight up spoil it. The big aspect of the film is that Abigail is in fact a vampire, and she's not locked in the house with them. They are locked in there with her. And Abigail is a fantastic time at the movies. And yes, I use a pun because myself, like the movie, don't take myself too seriously, and this film does not take itself too seriously either. For all the horror of being stalked by this child vampire within this building, the reactions from all the characters on screen are weirdly accurate and relatable. Their first response upon learning the true essence of Abigail as being a vampire is to immediately go through the checklist of, right, vampires. There are a lot of vampire media out there. What will work on this little girl? It perfectly blends elements of horror with a macabre sense of humor that translates very well, and that is heavily carried by the performances on screen. Obviously, Melissa Barrera is a big selling point of this movie due to outside of movie reasons, and she is very good as the lead in this movie, though she does kind of get held back a little bit because this is another one of those examples of side characters really stealing the show. Dan Stevens is absolutely fantastic as sort of the co-protagonist in this movie. He by far has the more leadership role of this group alongside Barrera, and the exchange between those two are really entertaining. Kevin Durand is arguably a scene stealer for me. He comes out with some of the best laughs in the whole movie, and his interactions with Dan Stevens, and every time that Kevin Durand's character makes Dan Stevens stress, is some of the most relatable aspects. But we also have his bond with Kathryn Newton's character in this as well, which really gives us some of the more poignant emotional scenes in the movie, which is quite surprising. Imagine this as a cross between the characters in the film Free Fire with the exchanges and dynamic of the characters in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. That's the vibe that a lot of the exchanges give me within this. Every actor in this does a fantastic job with what they are given. They don't take the film too seriously. The film doesn't take itself too seriously. And as a result, we get that morbid humor as well as some really high tense stakes that really elevate the film to have its own unique identity. I have been loving how horror movies this year have been taking more risks and are trying to be more fresh feeling. As a fresh injection into the vampire genre, it feels very interesting and enjoyable. The fact we now have two child vampires, both called Abby, is a fun little coincidence. Like, insert your Doofenshmirtz 2 nickels joke right here. The film balances the comedy aspects with the horror aspects really well. And boy, when it comes to horror aspects, you cannot ask for a more gory film. The blood effects in this are brilliant, and they have clearly not moved on from the Ready or Not explosions, as there are a number of those in this movie, and it is always entertaining to see these bits play out. But I would be remiss if I did not give a particular shout out to the highlight of this movie, and that is Alisha Weir, Abigail herself. She is phenomenal in this, and I genuinely mean that. She is being forced to carry a movie as both an antagonist that is also strangely likable. She's the one being kidnapped, so part of us wants to root for her, part of us wants to root for the kidnappers that are surprisingly likable. But the fact she has to balance the shift from acting like a young girl and playing the vulnerable child that doesn't know what's going on and is terrified, and the sudden switch to portraying a vampire that has been around for centuries and delivering such a mature, intimidating, icy performance. She does really well in this. And big credit to the makeup effects as well. Her Nosferatu inspired vampire look is applied enough to make her look monstrous, make her look intimidating, and something that you would be terrified of facing face to face, but it doesn't take up too much of a face. It allows her performance to really come through the makeup and effects. They hit a nice balance between special effects and a facial performance. She's just having a great time in this as well. She is clearly enjoying it as much as the character of Abigail is enjoying playing this fun game of hunt her food. It's very entertaining. She is a scene stealer, and you never get bored in this movie. The scenes where she's not in there, you have the kidnappers bouncing off each other, riffing off each other, and strangely being somewhat likable. And the flip side, whenever those guys are not on screen, Abigail is there just bringing both the terror and the laughs. She feels like a gamer that is a pro gamer that set up a Smurf account and is just playing with the newbies or the casual players. That is the dynamic this film brings across. That being said, however, I will say that this film, while it is heavily marketed on the fact that Abigail is a vampire and it's a case of the kidnappers have kidnapped the wrong little girl, the film does not show that hand for quite a while. And if you go into this blind, it might be more of a surprise to you, but all the marketing of this film has emphasized the fact that Abby is indeed a vampire, and that's our big twist at the half-hour mark. So that means that the first half hour of the film, where we are getting to know these kidnappers, the mystery aspect before the big reveal doesn't feel impactful at all. And the film also books itself into a corner somewhat, because whilst it is a strong, entertaining movie, the final 20 minutes really fall flat for me because the film didn't want to have our lead character bite the big one, but it also didn't want Abigail to be killed off either. So it comes to this weird, rushed, last minute compromise in order to force these two characters to work together and give the vampire a reason to let her food go. That for me was a bit of a letdown. I would have loved a final showdown between the two, and I would not have been bothered who came out on top. Give us the bad ending where the vampire reigns supreme, or give us a somber ending where the vampire just get killed off. Instead, the film very much phones in a cramped together MacGuffin that forces two opposing forces to combine to overcome a third party force that up until that point has been one of the most likable and entertaining parts of the film. Even when he says some arseholery things, they still seem relatable and almost genuine advice. So there's some character shifts towards the end that really almost derail the film for me. But thankfully, the whole center bit of the movie, when we got to the vampire stalking and just toying with her food, that was hugely entertaining. Abigail is a fun time at the movie. She can very much sit at the table of other vampires that have come before her. Abby from Let Me In, Eli from Let the Right One In. I know, same movie, different countries, but I digress. Different characters played out. And of course, David from The Lost Boys. I love that little Lost Boys homage towards the end as well. I can't be the only one that saw a certain character take a vampire form and immediately think of a Lost Boys-esque archetype. Before I get into my grade, if you like what you're seeing on the channel so far, click the like button and subscribe for more reviews that's coming all the time. But without further ado, let's grade this. Abigail, as I've said, is a fun time at the movies. It is funny, it is bloody, the effects are really good, the actors are giving 110%, really giving some very surprising laughs, and just generally makes this a very fun popcorn flick. But the fact that all the advertisements shows the film's hand, making the first 20 or so minutes of build-up somewhat moot, as there is no mystery to be solved from an audience perspective because we know going in what review is going to be, and the forced aspect of the final 20 minutes having two characters have to come together in order to avoid having one particular individual lose, that also throws me a bit, and it does feel like Giancarlo Esposito is wasted in this as well. He is just there for trailer bait and be the guy that everyone's like, I recognize that guy, and brings them to the cinema. But still, Abigail is a fun time at the movies, and I would gladly watch this multiple times. I'm going to have to say that for me, Abigail is a tea that needs more sugar. So Abigail, have you seen it? If you have, let me put down in the comments below. Coming up next on the channel, I will be seeing challenges on Sunday, so expect a review out for that on Monday. But until next time, everybody, I am Josh, I have been your movie apprentice, and I'll see you all in the next video.